Hey, folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast live stream. Good to be back with you. And hey, as usual, we've got a lot to discuss when it comes to the world's most chaotic and volatile region and why it matters to you, no matter where you live. So, we're breaking down all the latest Middle East and Israel related news today. And, folks, the big question you may be asking, that a lot of people are asking, is what happened to this Iranian so called revenge attack against Israel that the Iranian regime had been promising, vowing, threatening for weeks? Look, it was now over 3 weeks ago, or about 3 weeks ago to the day. Actually, it was early Wednesday morning, about 3 weeks ago, July 31st, thereabouts, when Ismail Haniyeh, the top overall leader of Hamas, was killed in a daring operation in his room, in his guest room, in the middle of Tehran, under the noses of the Iranian regime. Less than 24 hours before Haniyeh's death, top Hezbollah commander, one of the right-hand men to Hezbollah leader Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah, his name was Fuad Shukr. He was killed in Beirut in another daring strike carried out by Israel. Needless to say, the Iranian regime and its top proxy Hezbollah have been breathing threats of revenge ever since. Now, folks, this is going on 3 weeks, and I would say world event. I'm in America right now, obviously, but world events, Middle East events this week are taking a back seat in the news coverage here in the United States as the Democrat National Convention has rolled into town in Chicago, and we've got thousands of pro-Hamas demonstrators, pro-Hamas orcs, I call them, outside the convention in Chicago. Not only that, Planned Parenthood is there offering free abortions and vasectomies. Very interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, your Democrat National Convention. If you think that is an affront to biblical values and Judeo-Christian values and civilization, you're right. That's what you'll find in Chicago this week, but I digress. In the meantime, in the Middle East, what is happening with Iran and Hezbollah? And look, folks, I think everyone obviously is happy that war has been averted and there has been no attack, clearly. And yet, I think it's also clear that Iran has painted itself in a corner, so to speak. They're at the stage here. Look, early on, in the days following Haniyeh and Shukr's deaths, they vowed. They said, we are going to do something. From the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, on down, they vowed they were going to strike Israel in response. And as we reported here on the newscast, they sent the word out to diplomats from countries like Hungary, which Iran still has relations with, and who kind of play middleman between Iran and, say, the United States. And Iran, through those back channels, sent messages to America, to Israel, to the West. We're going to attack Israel. But now we're 3 weeks on, and it hasn't happened. Now, look, a lot of this could simply be psychological terror. And I think certainly there's a psychological terror factor involved here, no doubt, in that the Israeli public has been on pinpricks, pins and needles for the past 3 weeks, asking, when is this attack coming? Where is it coming from? Could it be Hezbollah in the north that carries out the bulk of this? Do they strike first, followed by Iran? Do the two of them strike in tandem? Or, hey, should Israel strike first? Should Israel just sit around and wait to be attacked, or should Israel go on the offensive and strike preemptively? All of these questions have been swirling around, and it's gone from U.S. intelligence and Israeli intelligence saying in 24 to 48 hours, Iran and or Hezbollah and the Iranian Ring of Fire, the Houthis, throw them in the mix, the militias in Syria and Iraq, they're going to attack within 24 to 48 hours. Then those 48 hours or so passed, and then it became, okay, they've delayed it a bit, but in the next 24 to 48 hours, they're going to attack. And it's been that way for 3 weeks. Not so much in the past week, but for at least those first two weeks after the deaths, essentially the first 2 weeks of August, after the deaths of Haniyeh and Fuad Shukr. It kind of became like the boy who cried wolf after a while. And everyone's waiting, saying, when's this going to happen? We're all on call, ready to cover the breaking news here and bring it to you here on the channel and on our nightly show, Stakelbeck Tonight on TBN. It hasn't happened yet. And again, part of it could be Iran playing a psychological game here, saying to Israel, you don't know when it's going to come. You don't know where it's going to come from. I think another part of this clearly is, look, Iran has painted itself into a corner here by promising we're going to do something, because now they have to do something. But folks, here's the kicker. The last time they did something directly to Israel from Iranian soil, like they're promising now, was April 13th. And that didn't go very well for Iran. It was actually quite embarrassing because they launched over 300 missiles and drones, and over 99% of them were intercepted. Most did not even enter Israeli airspace, although who can forget those photos, that video of Iranian missiles over the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. But by and large, a massive dud and a failure for Iran. But I've been saying here over the past 3 weeks, also a success, right? In that they got away with it. Folks, they carried out this unprecedented barrage on April 13th, 2024, and there was really no response. There was really not the kind of response that would serve as a deterrent and a message to Iran to never, ever try this again. Israel fired one missile at a sensitive site in Natanz, which is a very sensitive city because a major Iranian nuclear facility is located right there. What Israel was saying, we can hit you anytime, any place. Don't try it again. But Iran clearly didn't get the memo, because if they did, if it was the kind of forceful deterrent style response that was needed, quite frankly, in the wake of April 13th, Iran would never think about striking Israel directly again, at least for the time being. But that's not the case. Clearly, they were emboldened by the lack of a response to April 13th. And now we have the situation we're in right now, where, again, it's pins and needles every day, and we're expecting, when's this going to come? I see some commenters right now. Susan Kennett, one of our loyal viewers, hey, Susan, says, Eric, I believe you're right. I think they're playing games, just waiting till everyone starts relaxing. Then, unfortunately, a possible strike. So what do you think, folks? Good observation there by Susan. We've got a very lively chat here. Thousands watching right now. Thousands more will join before the time we're done. I want to throw it out there. Why the delay? Why hasn't Iran struck? I've got a few opinions on it. I think one is psychological, certainly. But I think number two is they can't afford another April 13th type dud. If they strike this time, if it's a dud again, they are completely embarrassed, and they're exposed to the world as the tin pot dictatorship that they are. I'll give you a few more of my takes on another part of why they're delaying in a minute. Before I do, quick shout out. Well, first, a programming note. Be sure to subscribe, of course, to the Watchman News channel right here on YouTube, and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. Hey, folks, believe it or not, we're only 39,000 subscribers away from 1 million. You look up one day, you're plugging away here, you're grinding, you're doing the Lord's work. All of a sudden, we're at 961,000 subscribers. So our team has set a goal. Hey, we'd love to reach 1 million by December 31st, by the end of this year. And we'd love if you could help us get there. I think it's something like 72% of our regular viewers, 72%, are not subscribed to the channel. That's crazy. I mean, it costs you nothing here just to be a subscriber. So we'd love if you could join us here every day as Watchmen and Women on the Wall, because when you do, YouTube recommends this video to more people around the world. And when that happens, more people get a message of truth for such a time as this. And that's why we do what we do. Also, quick shout out before we break down some more about the Iranian delay and also what's happening in the north right now. Folks, it is intensifying, and that's almost become redundant, right? That phrase over the past 10 months now, over 10 months since October 7th. Time flies. But really in the north, Hezbollah has launched hundreds of rockets over the past 2 days alone. And there are rumblings yet again that Israel may look to move in the north. We want to break that down as well. And who was this major figure linked to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps who was taken out today by Israel in Lebanon? Need to share that with you as well. So a quick reminder, though, before we go on. We're talking about the north, and we're talking about, 80,000 people, I think, at least evacuated. Some have said 100,000 of the north, residents of northern Israel, the beautiful communities in northern Israel that I love so dearly, where I've spent so much of my time. Then you've got thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands still evacuated in the south along the Gaza border. And folks, I've said this many times in the newscast, and I'll say it again today, that you cannot have a fully functioning country, especially when it's the size of the state of New Jersey, like Israel, when entire regions of that country are emptied out and essentially not functioning and not contributing overall to the economy of that tiny country. It's unsustainable. Yet that's what Israel's facing right now as the north remains a ghost town and sections of the south along the Gaza border. Israel could use a few good friends right now. That's why I want to tell you about our sponsor for today's video, our dear friends at Magen David Adom. Now, these are Israel's emergency first responders. Magen David Adom is Israel's emergency services system. Folks, some facts for you here. And again, it's SaveLivesIsrael.com. It's SaveLivesIsrael.com. They respond to every terror attack, heart attack, and car accident. So they're very busy, especially during a time like this. They dispatch every ambulance in Israel. Every ambulance. I'm in Israel frequently. Those Magen David Adom ambulances are everywhere. Every ambulance, it's them. They receive thousands of emergency calls every day, especially when rockets and missiles are falling, like we have right now in the north and elsewhere. They collect, process, and distribute the entire blood supply for Israel, civilians and the IDF. In a time of war, that's crucial, needless to say. Since October 7th, 30 Magen David Adom volunteers have been killed, laying their lives on the line for Israel with their incredible work. Folks, look, every time you see a rocket attack, a terror attack, a drone attack in Israel, literally every time, Magen David Adom is there on the ground responding right away. Needless to say, as you can see, and again, these are volunteers, 90% of their EMTs, paramedics, and first responders are volunteers. Needless to say, they're doing God's work. And needless to say, a lot of people have asked me in the past 10 months, Erick, how can I help? I can't get to Israel right now. I want to bless Israel. I'm going to fulfill that biblical mandate laid out in Genesis 12:3 to bless Israel. What can I do in Israel's time of greatest need? This is what you can do. SaveLivesIsrael.com. Magen David Adom, folks, I recommend them strongly. You watch the show on a regular basis. You watch the channel. There's a few organizations, a very, very, very select few that we partner with because I need to know them and believe in them. I know Magen David Adom. I've seen them in action on the ground in my many trips to Israel. I believe in them. I know they're doing God's work. And this is the kind of organization you want to bless Israel that you should get behind. It's SaveLivesIsrael.com. Check them out. Magen David Adom, proud to have them as a sponsor for the news channel. Okay, the Iranian delay in the attack. Here's what Seth Frantzman, one of my favorite writers, by the way, check him out, Seth Frantzman from the Jerusalem Post. Here's what he wrote today, folks. And I want to get your take on this as we're all kind of putting out there our take on why Iran has delayed. Almost 3 weeks ago, Seth Frantzman writes in Jerusalem Post, and I'm just reading this straight off my phone. Iran said, look, we're going to retaliate. Now they're trying to step down from those claims that they're going to attack Israel. They built up a lot of expectations, he writes, regarding how they would attack Israel. They were promising an unprecedented attack. And we were predicting an attack many magnitudes more than what we saw on April 13th, when, again, we had over 300 projectiles launched. And he writes, rightly, the challenge for Iran in retaliating against Israel for the deaths of Haniyeh and Shukr is trying to go beyond that failed April attack. Now Iran, and that was a challenge all along, and I believe that's part of it. Look, the U.S. has sent the message to Iran via Israel that, hey, if you attack Israel this time, they're going to unleash hell. So Iran's taking that into consideration as well, that their economy could be in tatters, that this time around, Israel is going to hit sensitive sites related to the Iranian economy. And who knows? Depending on the extent of the Iranian attack, perhaps Israel would even strike Iran's nuclear facilities. Israel means business, is what the Biden administration through back channels has told Iran. And look, after Haniyeh is killed under their noses on Iranian soil in Tehran and Shukr is killed in Beirut, I think Iran knows Israel's not playing around. So that's causing pause. Iran is weighing the cost and the benefit, right? They're saying, okay. And our friend, listen, you know our good friend Yair Pinto from TBN Israel, who you saw here with me last week live. Check him out at TBN Israel. But Yair said, look, Erick, and obviously impeccable sources that he has on the ground. He was a spokesperson for the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, up until a few months ago. Yair knows a lot of people who know a lot of stuff in Israel. He said, look, Erick, this time around, I can tell you once Iran presses launch and a rocket is in the air, Israel's going to strike. It's not going to be what we saw on April 13th, where Israelis were waiting for like 5 hours for the drones and the missiles to make their way through the sky to Israel. No. Yair said this time we're going on the offensive. Now, we won't strike first, likely, because then the world will howl. And I've argued here preemptively that Israel has a right to attack rather than waiting around. I've compared it to 1967, the Six-Day War. Israel struck first, resounding victory, miraculous victory. 1973, the Yom Kippur War, Israel waits, Israel is attacked, and it got kind of dicey before Israel ultimately prevailed. But the message Yair said, look, is that we're going to strike, and we're not going to wait around this time, and it's not going to be a limited response. Two things here. Why was the response on April 13th limited? Number one. Number two, why did Israel delay in going into Rafah in Gaza to finish the job with Hamas? And number three, why has Israel delayed in invading southern Lebanon and decisively crushing Hezbollah? Two words: Biden administration, which has been tying Israel's hands at every turn. And the main reason Israel's not striking preemptively now is because the Biden administration is saying to Israel, sit around and wait to be attacked, and we'll help you. We and our coalition that we had on April 13th as well, the US, UK, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, we'll all pitch in and we'll help you defend against the incoming missiles and drones. But if you go on the offensive, Israel, and strike preemptively, then you're on your own. So Israel's weighing that. But Iran is also weighing that. And shame on the Biden administration many times over. And by the way, Joe Biden, in this rambling diatribe of a shout fest that was likely his final speech on the world stage, God willing, that he gave Monday night at the Democrat National Convention, he said that the protesters, the pro-Hamas mobs outside the convention in Chicago, quote, have a point. And that pretty much sums up the Biden administration's foreign policy viewpoint, but I digress again. Here's what Iran has to weigh. Now, Iran knows that the United States, and by extension, the European Union, are tying Israel's hands and not permitting Israel to respond first or to strike first. So Iran knows that. And Iran also knows if and when it chooses to launch, the U.S. will try to restrain Israel's response. And that's why the response on April 13th was so limited and ultimately ineffectual, to the point that Iran has the chutzpah, as my friends in Israel would say, to try another attack launched directly from Iranian soil. So Iran knows that the West is going to try to restrain Israel. So that emboldens Iran. But then Iran's getting these messages that, you know what, we've tried to restrain them, but we can't hold off Israel this time. They're going to hit you hard. So this is what Iran has to weigh. Okay, if we launch, Israel may very well unleash hell on us, upon our heads. So, man, if we launch and it's a dud again, 99% are intercepted of what we launch is intercepted again, then is it really worth it? Is it really worth the consequences? If we're not going to inflict any kind of serious or significant pain or damage on Israel, then why even launch? Because the moment we launch, as Yair Pinto shared with us last week, Israel is going to unleash hell. So we don't even get anything out of it. We launch a bunch of projectiles that don't do anything, and then we get hit and our economy's in tatters, and perhaps even our nuclear facilities are bombed. What's in it for us at that point? So they've painted themselves in a corner here, folks, because they're breathing threats for 2 weeks after Hanea and Shukr were killed, and then they started thinking about it. Then they started getting the message through back channels from Israel, like, if you dare, we're going to strike hard. This isn't April 13th. This time you will feel it. You will feel our response. And they're saying, maybe we should climb down a little bit. Seth Franson from the Jerusalem Post quotes, and look, I'm not saying they're not going to attack. I'm not saying that at all. I think they have to do something eventually. I just don't know that it's going to take on the shape and form that they initially intended, because they know there will be repercussions, serious ones this time around. But they're going to try something somewhere at some time, and they may well just say, you know what, Hezbollah, you go first. We don't know. No one knows. But I don't even know that they know yet, Iran's leaders, as they still debate this internally. We've reported here in the newscast that Iran's president, Pezeshkian, the new president, and Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps have been debating internally fiercely. Pezeshkian has said, look, okay, attack, but don't attack Israel proper. Attack in a limited fashion against Israeli interests abroad. Say an embassy, a consulate, a Jewish center, a community center, God forbid. Don't attack directly, because then Israel is going to strike back and they could destroy our economy. And if our economy is destroyed, then our regime is in danger. Maybe more danger than it's been in since it came to power in 1979, that wicked regime. And by the way, the main victims of Iran's regime are the Iranian people, who have felt that tyrannical jackboot on their necks for 45 years. And yet, to encourage you, know this, the Iranian church is the fastest growing in the world. Christians are persecuted, hounded, killed, tortured at every turn, Bible-believing Christians in Israel, yet the church there continues to expand, largely underground, because you can't stop the gospel. So be encouraged. But the IRGC is coming back at Pezeshkian and say, wait a minute. No, we need to strike. We've committed to this. Now we have to do it. So they've painted themselves in a corner, and their MO has always been, we strike Iran. We strike through proxy. We don't get our hands dirty. We strike through Hezbollah, and someone says Iran is a paper tiger. Cedric Gibbons, one of our commenters. Cedric, I agree. A lot of bluster, but if it's toe-to-toe between Israel and Iran, it's no contest. Yet Iran has that ring of fire that surrounds Israel. Yet Iran has Russia and China lurking in the background. And yet Israel has the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So needless to say, my money's on Israel. But Iran never attacked directly, right? Always through proxy, activating that ring of fire, number one. And number two, as I mentioned a minute ago, striking, say, a consulate and embassy, striking Israeli shipping. We've seen that a bunch over the past few years. But they always have what I call implausible deniability. Hey, we didn't do it. It was Hezbollah, Hamas, but we didn't do it. And they've lost a crucial ring in that ring of fire with the demise of Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza. So they're kind of painted in the corner here. They have vowed to respond, but what are their options? Now, I mentioned earlier, Hezbollah is raining rockets down on the Golan, on northern Israel, in particular, intensifying over the past 48 hours or so. So, folks, keep an eye on this. Keep an eye on Lebanon right now. Things are intensifying there. And I know we've said that for 10 months, you've been saying, because it's been intensifying for 10 months. It truly, truly has. But Hezbollah has fired over 6,000 rockets and missiles at Israel in the past 10 months alone. And that's a lot. And they would have never gotten away with that if Israel wasn't so preoccupied, obviously, with Gaza. So it's a precarious time. Just because Iran hasn't attacked yet is no time to get comfortable at all. Because I think this time there will be an element of surprise on the Iranian side, or at least they'll try to have that, and Hezbollah as well. So prayer works, and this is a time for it, folks. But a point from Seth Franson here from the Jerusalem Post, back to him, an Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps deputy commander, Ali Fadavi, says Iran will attack at a time of its choosing. Hey, we're going to attack now, this is imminent. Now it's, well, let's slow our roll. We'll do it at a time of our choosing. Again, because Israel has in some ways reestablished deterrence with those daring takeouts of Hanea and Shukr, and Israel just saying straight up, and Israel hitting Hezbollah hard, by the way. And I'm saying, hey, Hezbollah's hitting Israel hard, northern Israel. Israel's hitting Hezbollah very, very hard and putting a dent in Hezbollah, folks. Senior commanders killed. We can go on and on. Rocket launchers, missile launchers. But so Iran, the regime is weighing all this. But this IRGC, Revolutionary Guard commander, said, a time of our choosing, it's going to be harsh. It's a necessity that we do this. We have to do this, and it's coming. Basically what we've heard over the past 3 weeks, but now it's turned into, we're going to respond eventually at a time and place of our choosing. So this may not be in the near future. It may be tonight. We just don't know. Part of that is a psychological game, perhaps mixed messaging, or perhaps the messaging is we're climbing down a bit here. But in their prideful world, they have to save face here. So I'd be shocked if they don't eventually try something, and it may not be against Israel proper. It may be, again, an embassy, consulate. But I say all that to say Israel is on alert. Its highest level of alert. Israel's on guard, not only the nation of Israel, but Israeli and Jewish interest around the world for what Iran could do. And by the way, just a reminder, and I'm on American soil, a reminder of the reach of the Iranian regime, or their attempted reach at least. A Pakistani citizen linked to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps was arrested in the United States about 2 weeks ago, plotting to assassinate Trump administration officials, reportedly. So this is an emboldened regime, and they fear Donald Trump. Whether you like Donald Trump, you don't like him, I know there's varying opinions I hear in the comments. I can tell you the Iranian regime is quaking in its boots when it considers another Trump term, if that is to happen come January. Because he certainly put the squeeze on that regime and had them on the ropes and then some, until the Biden administration threw them a lifeline, sanctions relief, appeasement, and we've seen it over the past nearly 4 years. So they don't want to see Trump get, they want 4 more years. They want Harris Waltz. And they want it now. So that's part of the reason. And we talk about revenge and Iran having a long memory. They still are looking to assassinate the people who ordered the assassination of Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian terror master. President Trump was obviously commander-in-chief when that happened. So they continue to plot against President Trump and former Trump administration officials on American soil. So this is a regime certainly that over the years, over the past close to 4 years, has grown more emboldened. But something to mention today about Israel going on the offensive and sending these deterrent messages. Folks, listen to this. This is interesting. Israel with these really precise, pinpointed, specific strikes. Here's one today. The IDF carried out an airstrike on a vehicle in a Palestinian refugee camp near the coastal Lebanese city of Sidon. Sidon, mentioned in the New Testament, Tyre and Sidon, right? Jesus spent time there. This strike by the IDF, airstrike, killed an official from Fatah. The first such attack reported on Fatah in over 10 months. Fatah is the party of Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinian Authority, and Fatah is not moderate, as some in the mainstream media and Western diplomats try to portray them. Fatah, the Palestinian Authority, Israel's partner for peace. And yet their rhetoric resembles that of Hamas. And Fatah pays salaries to terrorists who kill Israelis out of their official Palestinian Authority payroll. So there you have it. But this Fatah official who was killed in Sidon was reportedly linked to Iran's, surprise, surprise, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps. You hear me mention the IRGC a lot, folks. They are really the vanguard of the Iranian regime. Think of the Nazi SS. Put the IRGC on that level, but even deeper involvement. They answer directly to the supreme leader, just as the SS answered directly to Hitler. But They're involved in Iran's economy, a heavy hand in the economy, the nuclear program, everywhere. The IRGC has its claws sunk in. Well, this Fatah official was linked to Hezbollah and the IRGC and planning attacks on Israel and transferring money and weapons. This is key to terror cells in the West Bank, also known as Judea and Samaria, the biblical heartland. Why? Because as we have reported here in the newscast, the Iranian regime has spent the better part of the past few years trying to establish a major foothold in the West Bank, Judea, and Samaria, a new front. And this Fatah official who was taken out was involved in trying to establish that as well, reportedly. And folks, that new Palestinian front in the West Bank, Judea, Samaria, well, it's always been a front, but Iranian-backed front becomes even more crucial and significant now, right? Because Hamas in Gaza is in its death throes. Iran might be saying, okay, we lost Gaza, but let's ramp it up now in the West Bank, Judea, and Samaria. I can tell you that's something Israel, that's one of the great untold stories since October 7th. Israel has really gone on the offensive in the West Bank, Judea, and Samaria as well. And the Iranian influence there is strong, and they're trying to make it stronger. That's why today's strike was significant. Hey, tomorrow, folks, we talked about this a bit yesterday. I teased it for you. For our premium members, we'll come to you with our regular live stream tomorrow too, but we'll also have a premium live stream 4 p.m. Central tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern for the premium. Now, if you are a premium member, Q&A, we're going to do a lot of good stuff tomorrow. A Q&A session, basically, our premium live stream. Get to know me a little better. I get to know you a little better. If you're not a premium member, it's all good. We love you anyway. You can subscribe here, absolutely free. We love having our Watchmen and women, premium or not. But for people here every day, we want to go a little deeper with premium membership. We thought it'd be a cool thing to offer everyone. And part of that is once a month, sometimes twice, we're going to do a premium live stream. So if you're interested, you can click join on the homepage to be a part of our premium members. And if you're not a premium member, again, we love you and God bless you. And you'll join us here tomorrow for the regular live stream, which is more of the kind of great content you heard today. So all good either way. But thank you for joining us today. Hey, folks, keep praying. I really sense that, you know, if the body of Christ isn't praying right now and speaking into this and praying into it, then it's going to get darker, without a doubt. We can shine a light in the darkness when it's so sorely needed. So stay in prayer. It really works. It almost sounds cliched, I think, to people sometimes. Hey, I'm praying for you. Or I'm going to pray about it. But no, when you pray, things move, things happen. God not only hears, he listens, and he'll move. If it's aligned with his will, and you're praying from the right place in your heart, and your heart reflects God's heart on these matters, oh, he'll move. So let's continue to do that. Let's continue to do that, folks. Until tomorrow, thanks for joining us. God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.